When you walk into the chapel, what's on your mind? What were you thinking about when you came in today? Were you noticing the vibrant stained glass windows, the candles, the organ music, piano music in this case? Were you absorbed in a conversation with a friend, worrying about the class you have after this? Being grateful that the end of the day is in sight? Were you wondering if the speech is going to take long? We're busy people, and Appleby is always alive and full of activities, events, deadlines, and emails. Let's take a step back from all of that. We're in a safe space, a welcoming space. This is our space to relax, reflect, learn, share our experiences, sing at the top of our lungs, and leave with a sense of peace and fulfillment. This is our space to grow. You've heard that word pop up around chapel a lot over the past month. Grow. It's not surprising, considering that this year's chapel theme is growth of our own. The Chapel Council and I chose this theme to emphasize that we are all working towards different goals, and this progress should be celebrated, no matter how quick or noticeable it is. Well, that and it almost rhymes. But what does such a message have to do with the almost 100-year-old building we're gathered in today? That will be revealed soon, but first, I'd like to tell you a story. If you know me well, or have gone to any Appleby performances over the past 3 years, you remember that I absolutely love to play the cello. I've been playing since I was 4 years old, although I'd been begging my parents to buy me one since I was a toddler. Since then, it's become an essential part of my identity, a way to learn, connect, and just have fun. In grade 10 careers class, I decided to pursue a professional career in cello playing. I planned to go to university for music, audition for a well-known orchestra, and spend the rest of my life sharing my love of music with the world. These concrete plans inspired me. I began to practice for hours each day and always seized the chance to develop my playing. After all, music is quite a competitive industry, and I was determined to find my place in it. Later that year, a strange pain developed in my shoulder and grew whenever I played. At first, it was mild and easy to ignore, but as I said before, I practiced a lot. And before I knew it, the pain was unbearable. A few hours of practice a day became a few minutes, and I was plunged into a strange world of shoulder exercises, constant stretches, treatments, tests, massages, and most prominently, rest. It was discouraging, and I hated thinking I could have been practicing and improving instead of every second I spent relaxing. However, I knew that if I did not let my skills deteriorate, my shoulder would. This is why I spent a good portion of the year doing lots of shoulder strengthening routines and very little practice, until finally I had healed enough to play as I usually did. Playing again was an incredible feeling, until it wasn't. That fall, the injury was back, and I had to go through the same process all over again. This time, since I knew what to do to heal faster and prevent myself from aggravating the injury, it was only a few weeks before I was as good as new. I wish I could say that was the end of the story, but it turned out that I was stuck in a cycle of flare-ups and rest, with the injury constantly popping up and disappearing, until eventually the familiar temporary fixes I always relied on stopped working. I would not recover. I was stuck at a dead end, and my shoulder pain had reached a climax, bringing tears to my eyes after even a few minutes of playing. There are two ways to view a chronic issue that hinders your growth. You can see it as an annoyance that you have to live with, but that you know will go away with time and patience, one you know you can overcome each time it pops up. You can also choose to see it as the massive roadblock that just won't budge, the endless cycle of moving without progressing, the reason to give up. I'm sure you can guess how I chose to look at it back then. I questioned my path because I couldn't meet the standards I held myself to, and at one point, somewhere deep inside my brain, I wondered if I should abandon music entirely. I'd lost my sense of direction, my motivation, my purpose. Okay, I know that seems a little over the top, but that's how it felt at the time. So how am I able to tell an entire grade band about this with a straight face? A smile, even? Well, when everything became too much, I took a step back. I gave myself room to reflect and organize my whirlwind of feelings into solid thoughts. I prayed, since for me, it's a reliable way to find peace and strength. I accepted the advice of my peers and older, more experienced loved ones, who dried my tears and showed me all the possibilities that my future still has. And this helped me realize that despite all the breaks I had to take, I am a better musician than I was in grade 10. My playing is more in tune, more musically complex, and on days without pain, more fulfilling. I may not practice as much as I want to, or play as well as I could, but I'm on the right track, still working towards my goals, just more slowly than I first intended. Furthermore, I understand my physical limits and know how to take care of myself when things inevitably take a turn for the worse. I have grown. I'm still growing. And I hope that this year, just as I do, you can find a place to grow here in the John Bell Chapel. I hope you can use every Tuesday morning to take a step back from the chaos and pressure that constantly surround us as Appleby students. I hope that the chapel can become your space to appreciate the ways you and your friends have grown. After all, it is a welcoming space for celebration, but also a tool you can use if you hit a dead end and your growth is hindered. For those of you who are not religious, I hope you can find your own meaning in the words of each reading and joy in the lyrics of each hymn. You may be surprised at the inspiration you can find here, and if not, remember that the Rev, the chapel wardens, and I are always open to discussing how we can grow together. Why don't we take this last moment to think about how we have grown? Can you imagine sitting down in front of your younger self and telling them about everything you've accomplished? Everything you weren't sure if you'd be able to do, but did anyways? It's an incredible feeling, is it not? Now, let's remember the areas in which we still have room to grow. Maybe you've fallen behind on a project, lost motivation to work towards a goal, are struggling to balance your work and your relationships. Maybe you were less kind to someone today than you could have been. Maybe you keep forgetting about a certain responsibility. I'd like to remind you that you should not beat yourself up over any of these. They're not flaws or things to be ashamed of, rather exciting opportunities to grow. And the beauty about these opportunities is that many of them do not have a deadline. You can work on them at your own pace, and that journey is so important to recognize and appreciate. So let's spend this year in chapel doing just that. After all, it's growth of our own. Now please rise and join me in singing hymn 656.